The biggest complaint about cordless battery power tools is runtime. So today I'm going to show you a couple of alternatives to standard batteries to keep you working longer. G'day guys and gals, today we are looking at battery solutions. So I've done a lot of videos over the years on Makita batteries, in particular 18 volt and 40 volt batteries, and today I'm going to show you how to make better use of those battery systems, because a lot of you complain in the comment section that the batteries just don't last long enough. You know, if you're putting a 40 volt battery on a blower and you only get 10 minutes, it's just not good enough. So today I'm going to show you a couple of other battery solutions that have been around a little while, but a lot of people still don't know about. And I'm going to show you some of the tricks you can do with these things to run different tools in different ways. So let's get into it. So on the bench is a Makita XGT 40 volt adapter, but what does it go into? Well, before I tell you that, I'm going to show you another couple of adapters. So we have this adapter here with two LXT battery ports on it and a lead, and a single 18 volt one as well. Now all three of these plug into battery packs that go on your back most of the time. They don't have to go on your back. Now all three of these adapters are genuine Makita products. I know they do look a little bit like they're knockoffs. The sticker designs are not quite as good as Makita's ones that they use on the batteries, but these are genuine products from Makita. And they of course run 18 volt tools, 18 volt times 2 tools, 36 volt, and the new 40 volt tools. And they can plug into one of two things. Both of them are similar, but very different at the same time. I'll show you the cheaper, older alternative first. First up we have the PDC01, which as you can see is brand new, fresh straight out of the box. It is essentially a battery backpack. It'll run 18 volt and 36 volt tools with the adapters you just saw, and it uses your pre-existing 18 volt batteries. So you load 4 18 volt batteries up into there, and you can now have 4 times the runtime for 18 volts or double the runtime for 18 volt times 2 tools. The lid on the PDC01 is spring loaded. Let it go, it will slam itself shut, which is a bit annoying if you want to change all the batteries out. But never fear, on the bottom of the unit there is a little button there. Push it in and it will hold the top open for you so that you can remove all your batteries. When you turn it on, you'll see there is some battery indicators. So you've got the 4 basic battery indicators there, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you are using an 18 volt tool on this thing, it doesn't drain these all evenly. It starts at one end, works its way through, deplete, 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 deplete. So you can change 2 out halfway through or something like that if you need to. If you're using a 36 volt tool, it'll use these 2 up first, then these 2. Now the green light down here you'll see is flashing. That will go to a solid light when you plug in an adapter, like so. Unplug it, back to a flashing light. It is fairly compact for the amount of batteries that are in it, and it has a harness, as you can see on the other side, so that it goes over your shoulders. Obviously you can wrap it around your waist. Got a little pouch here to either keep your adapter in when you're not using it, if you're using 2 different ones on the day or something, or you can put any other sort of tools in there. There is of course a ton of adjustments on these straps and everything. You can even pull the whole harness down your back by loosening this off and locking it down in a different place depending on how tall you are. We'll leave it in the short position because it's much easier to view on the bench. So these are primarily designed for tools such as outdoor power equipment. So if you have an 18 volt split shaft system, for instance, hook this onto your tool, your power head, and you can now run it 4 times longer without having to change batteries. So if you're blowing a big long driveway or something, you want to run for half an hour, chuck this on your back, clip this into your tool, and away you go. But of course, not only can you use it for outdoor power equipment, but you can also use it for other things like if you want a miter saw to run a bit longer without having to change batteries, if you want to do some grinding, you want to do a lot of cutting in concrete or something, chuck this on your back, a bit more runtime. Because if you stick 4 6 amp hour batteries in here, you'll get 24 amp hours of runtime. Significant improvement. Or if you're running 36 volt tools and you have 6 amp hour batteries in there, you'll get 36 volt at 12 amp hours. So you'll get twice the runtime than you could possibly get any other way. And 12 amp hours at 36 volts is even 50% more than the largest Makita 40 volt battery. It would be the equivalent of one of those and one of those, both stuck inside here. Now, while that's a good improvement, it's not massively more. If you want massively more, you're gonna have to go something a bit bigger than this. But before we take a look at the next one, let's just have a quick look at this thing in action. Now this thing has another little trick up its sleeve that some of you may have already worked out, and I'll tell you a little bit later on in the video what that is. But first, let's take a look at the next one. This is the PDC 1200. It's called 1200 because, as you can see on the front here, 1200 watt hours. I'm kind of surprised they used watt hours on the front of this thing when it's not something they really advertise on any of the other batteries. It is written on the bottom of every battery, but it's not the main feature. Normally batteries are sold as amp hours, right? We all know the runtime and amp hours. Watt hours would be better if they use that, but they don't. They use amp hours. So why they chose watt hours on this, I don't know. But anyway, I'm just starting to ramble now. If you want to know what it is in amp hours, this thing is 33.5 amp hours at 36 volts. That's a lot of amp hours compared to the last one. As you remember, the last one can only do up to 12 amp hours if you've got 4 6 amp hour batteries in there. This thing, almost 3 times that. So this thing here is the equivalent of this. That is a lot of batteries. That is 33.5 amp hours worth of 40 volt batteries. Now, how are you going to fit all those battery packs inside this unit, because that unit doesn't look big enough to hold that many batteries? Well, you don't have to worry about that because you don't put batteries inside this. This is one giant 33.5 amp hour battery. That's one big battery. So there is no way to open this up and get inside it to change anything. So how do you charge it? Well, down here we have a charging port just below the power button. The charger looks like this, with a plug like this. To plug the charger in, it's not the clearest thing in the world. It's hard to sort of work out where the lines are meant to go because there's so many little different things and pins and plastic lines. So you just turn it until you get to the right spot. It will drop on like so, and then you just twist that little dial there at the bottom. On come the lights, and you'll probably also no doubt have heard the charger fan kick in. So that's going to be a while. Now you'll notice this unit does not have a backpack attached to it, but never fear, because it has a removable backpack harness. So it's all pretty much the same as the harness on the PDC-01, although a little bit fresher looking than that one. You got your straps and your pouch there, and you can slide it up and down for comfort depending on your height. But it is easily removed from the backpack harness just by pushing this grey button on the top here, and the whole thing just pops off. Why does it pop off? Well, it makes it a lot easier to charge, but not only that, you can clip this entire battery onto certain tools. For instance, You can get a lawnmower where you just clip this whole thing on the top, and then you've got 33.5 amp hours of runtime at 36 volts. Now if you compare that to the maximum you can do with the current 40 volt mowers, you can put two 8 amp hour batteries in it, giving you 16 amp hours at 36 volts. So that doubles what you can currently do with a 40 volt mower with two of these. Not only that, you use this to power the new Makita Inverter. I was hoping to have that on the bench right now. Hopefully we'll have it before the end of the video so I can quickly show you that. Otherwise, it'll be in another video shortly, no doubt. But you clip this whole unit onto the top of that, and then you can use that to power anything that you plug in with a standard 3-pin plug in this part of the world. Be a 2-pin plug in some parts of the world, but in this part of the world you'll get 240 volts out of it, and I think 1600 watts. Is that what we've discussed before? I've talked about it in some of my update videos. I saw one the other day. I'll hopefully get it soon and we can look at it a bit better. It's also got USB chargers and that sort of thing in it, obviously, and it's a MacPack 2 size box basically that you can put in a MacPack stack, have this on the top, and power corded tools or lights or televisions, whatever the hell you want. Use it in an emergency to run your fridge, all those sorts of things. But we haven't got that today, so I will shut up about that and we'll move on to the way that these connect to the adapters, as well as the 18 volt LXT, the 36 volt LXT, and the new 40 volt Max. You can get Connect X plugs for these as well. So basically, if you've got a blower and you're going to be using a blower all day every day, and you can't run it on petrol because that's the way the world's going, then you can get one of these with a Connect X blower, which just plugs directly into here. You don't need the clunky battery adapter. So that helps make the tool a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter. Just plug that straight into a blower, straight into a weed eater, that sort of thing, and away you go. But most of you watching no doubt don't use that system. I certainly don't. So instead you will have one of these adapters. The kits often come with the adapters with these things. Now this one, being a 36 volt, will not run the standard single 18 volt one. You can only run this on the older PDC01. So it's pretty simple. You've got an arrow on the tool, an arrow on the adapter, plug them together, bang, you are ready to go. This is now capable of running any 40 volt Makita tool for a very long period of time. So what that means in real terms, if we take a look at the blower that's on screen at the moment, this is the split shaft power head 40 volt with the blower attachment. The first blower attachment is actually a newer, smaller version. It's not quite as powerful, but a bit more compact and a bit lighter if you like that sort of thing. But that's for another video. Anyway, that will do around 10 minutes. No more than 10 minutes on a 5 amp hour battery blowing full whack. So 10 minutes, not that great. With this thing, you're looking at 65 minutes approximately. When it comes to the standalone 40 volt blower, that can do about 16.5 minutes on a 5 amp hour battery. So if you extrapolate it out to this thing, you are looking at around 110 minutes. That's an hour and 40 minutes. So that's a decent amount of blow. Now, one of the downsides with this is because it's a single battery and you're not putting batteries inside it like the PDC01, you have to charge it with the dedicated charger, and that takes 5 hours to do a full charge, which is a long time. No one wants to wait around 5 hours in the middle of the day to get a job done. So if you are using one of these things, you really need to have two of them. And yes, they are expensive. If you have to ask, you know, it's one of those sort of tools. So if you've got two of these, it's a very hefty financial investment. If you're using outdoor power equipment all day and you can't use petrol, then it's a great choice, of course. But it will set you back a fair bit to start with. And because both these units go on your back, weight is important. The PDC01 that you put the batteries in that I just showed you before, it weighs 7 kgs, I do believe, with the batteries in it. Whereas this one here, you are looking at nearly 9 kgs. It's about 8.8 kgs without the harness. So with the harness, you're looking at over 9 kgs. So a couple of kgs heavier, but you do get a considerable more amount of whack for your weight. So I know a ton of you want to know, does this now mean I can run a 40 volt tool off 18 volt batteries? Well, I've got the 4 18 volt batteries in there, which equates to 2 sets of 36 volt. We've got the cord coming up. We're hooked into the 40 volt 12-inch miter saw. Will it work? Let's give her a whirl. I better turn the thing on first. That's one thing with these things, you've got to remember to turn them on. Even though it's a battery, essentially, you have to turn said battery on. Battery comes on, all light up, all good to go. Let's try this one more time. Sounds pretty good to me. I'll do a couple of cuts and see if it feels the same, eh? Okay, using the PDC01. Now with the 40 volt battery. Apart from nearly getting a bit of kickback there because I'm using a bung bit of wood, it seemed to work fine with both the 40 volt battery or the adapter. So you can run 40 volt tools off 18 volt batteries. What about the impact drivers? For those of you who wanted backwards compatibility, there it is. See? What have you been complaining about? 18 volt battery, 40 volt tool. Let's go. No wuckers. Easy. Convenient. Put this on your back. You can drive screws all damn day. And I'm running 12 amp hours and it's way lighter than putting a big 8 amp hour battery or something on there. In fact, it only feels like about a 4 amp hour. If you haven't already noticed throughout the video as well, you can put the cord out the front, cord out the back, you can have it in the middle, whatever. Choice is up to yours, so many possibilities. So the O1 I find quite a comfortable unit to use. It's small, it's lightweight, you don't notice it too much on your back, but you only get double the runtime out of it. So, you know, it's like, I sort of don't really see the point of this for a 36 volt tool. 18 volt maybe, you got 4 batteries, so it's going to give you 4 times the runtime on an 18 volt tool, but how many 18 volt tools are you really hooking up to this thing? Whereas the one on the right, much heavier on your back. You really notice that one compared to this. I tested this one out first, and after I'd been using this, putting this on was delightful. I hardly noticed it. But this thing is pretty heavy, takes a bit to get used to. Takes a bit to get used to as well, pushing the power button on the thing when you're wearing it. So try and turn the thing on before you pick it up, because this is a little bit cumbersome. It's not quite as easy as just grabbing a tool with a battery on it and away you go. You have to have the backpack on, you have to pick that up, hook that over your shoulders, you have to have the lead in the right place and everything, then plug your tool in. It can be a bit cumbersome sort of by yourself at first. You almost need somebody to set it up on you. So it's not something I particularly like, but in a previous life I would have used one of these a lot, particularly for blowers, because blowers just go through the batteries too damn fast. I used to use petrol backpack blowers because there was no battery alternative. But now this is a viable alternative, although that 6-hour charge time is a long time. This Connect X system seems sort of a bit odd at first. You clip it together just like that. It sort of doesn't lock, you don't twist it or anything. You just slot it in, you think, oh, is that going to hold? Well, it holds pretty well, but it also pulls out quite well if need be. So if you get caught up on anything, or you put the tool down and you start walking away forgetting you put the tool down, as I've done several times before, it will easily just pop out, rather than end up pulling you over or dragging your tool along the ground or anything like that. So if you get caught up in a branch or anything like that, this will easily pop out, and you can easily just slot it back in again when you're ready to go. So you can just drop that out, hook it up to another tool, slot it back in, away you go again. Or when you want to have a quick break, take that out, put the tool down, go grab a drink without having to remove this from your back, and then just slot it back in again, and away you go. So remember, the maximum you can put in this is 4 6 amp hour 18 volt batteries. whereas this is the equivalent of nearly 11 6 amp hour 18 volt batteries. So almost 3 times as much as this. And so like any battery tool system that you have, you always have to have at least 2 batteries. People always say, which battery should I get? No matter what you're buying, you need 2. Don't buy one 12 amp hour battery. You're better off getting 2 6 amp hour batteries, because at some point you've got to charge that 12 amp hour battery. So I would rather have to change it partway through the day or the job or whatever than run out and then be stuffed. So even if you buy a 12 amp hour battery, you've got to buy another 12 amp hour battery. You buy a 3 amp hour battery, you've got to buy another 3 amp hour battery. You've got to have 2, no matter what. And same with this, you've got to have 2 of these really, which is a pretty big financial outlay. But it would be interesting to see what else Makita could do with this sort of battery. Now Makita aren't the only ones that make these sort of batteries. Hikoki have done it in the past still, and a bunch of others. But Makita have a bigger range of overall tools and tech over the years that they could maybe adapt this to, and maybe do something along the lines of the MX Fuel stuff, where you clip on a big battery like this and then you can use a plate compactor or a sewer cleaner or something like that, or something that's a large piece of machinery that doesn't matter so much about the weight, or where the weight is actually an advantage to help hold the tool down, create a bit of pressure on, you know, something like a plate compactor, for instance. So I'm guessing that's why this has basically superseded this. This is now discontinued in this country. It's still available in some parts of the world, and you can still get it here if you go to the right place. Some places still have them for sale, but Makita New Zealand do not stock this item anymore. Everything has moved to this, and we'll hopefully be seeing a little bit more of this in an upcoming video shortly. Both of those have been around for a while now, I know guys, but I just thought I would show them, as I've never actually had them on the channel before. So the pros and cons for each. This, you can change out the batteries and carry on working. This, you have to charge the whole system up. This one you can use 18 volt and 36 volt. This one won't do 18 volt, just the 36 volt and the 40 volt max battery systems. This one's nice and light. This one's pretty heavy. This one only gives you double the runtime on 36 volt, whereas this gives you at least 4 times the runtime of the largest 8 amp hour 40 volt battery if you're using this on the XGT system. As usual, let me know what you think down in the comments. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done it before, and I'll see you on another Makita review next week. Cheers guys.